You look at Japan and see bullet trains, anime, sushi bars, and Tokyo's neon skyline. Maybe you think it's all about electronics, cars, and gadgets, Sony, Toyota, Nintendo. That's the story everyone knows. But here's the thing. That's not where the real money is anymore. Japan's actual wealth? It's hidden. Buried in places most people never think to look. And once you see it, you'll never look at this country the same way again. Welcome to the Wealth Chronicles, where we follow the money, uncover the power, and show you what's really running the world. And trust me, Japan's secret is darker and smarter than you ever imagined. Before we go deeper, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. It helps more people discover the truth. And subscribe because we're about to take you behind the curtain of one of the most misunderstood economies on the planet. Let's get into it. Most people think Japan makes money the way it always has. Factories, assembly lines, exports, that image of disciplined workers building perfect machines that the world can't live without. And sure, that was true. For decades, Japan dominated. It was the manufacturing king. Cars flooded America. Electronics filled every home. Japan Inc. was unstoppable. But then something changed, quietly, almost invisibly. The factories didn't disappear. They just stopped being the main story. Because while the world kept talking about Toyota and Honda, Japan was moving its money somewhere else. Somewhere more profitable, somewhere more permanent. Here's what happened. In the 80s and 90s, Japan got rich, really rich. Too rich, some would say. The bubble economy inflated asset prices to absurd levels. Real estate in Tokyo was worth more than all of California. The Nikkei stock index hit heights. It still hasn't recovered from decades later. Then it all collapsed. The bubble popped. Banks failed. Businesses went under. Japan entered what economists politely call the lost decades. Growth stalled. Deflation set in. The population started aging faster than almost anywhere else on Earth. It looked like the end of Japan's dominance. But it wasn't, because while Japan's domestic economy struggled, its corporations and government were quietly doing something brilliant. They were taking all that accumulated wealth and sending it overseas, not to escape, but to multiply. Japan didn't just make money at home anymore. It started buying the world. And this is where the story gets interesting. Because Japan isn't loud about its wealth, it doesn't boast, it doesn't flash its power like other nations. It just owns things, quietly, strategically, across every continent. And most people have no idea. Japan is now the world's largest creditor nation. Let that sink in. Japan lends more money to the rest of the world than any other country. It owns more foreign assets than almost anyone. Trillions of dollars in bonds, stocks, real estate, and companies, all generating returns. All flowing back to Japan. While you see a declining population and stagnant growth at home, Japan's wealth is growing abroad, invisible, untouchable. Let's talk numbers for a second. Japan holds over $4 trillion in foreign assets. That's not a typo. 4 trillion. It owns massive amounts of U.S. Treasury bonds. It finances governments, corporations, and projects all over the globe. Japanese banks, insurance companies, and pension funds are some of the biggest investors on Earth. They don't make headlines. They don't need to, they just collect. Month after month, year after year. And here's the kicker. This isn't speculation, this is income. Real, steady, predictable cash flow. Japan isn't gambling on the next big thing. It's sitting on a mountain of assets that pay dividends, interest, and rent. Forever. If you're still watching, drop a comment below and tell me if you knew about Japan's foreign asset empire. I'm willing to bet most of you had no idea. And that's exactly how Japan likes it. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about what Japan actually owns. Start with real estate. Japanese investors own iconic buildings in London, New York, Los Angeles, and Sydney. Office towers, hotels, shopping centers. They bought aggressively during downturns when prices were low and everyone else was scared. Now those assets generate rental income in strong currencies while appreciating in value. Then there's corporate ownership. Japanese firms hold stakes in companies across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. Sometimes they own entire businesses. Sometimes just enough to have influence. Energy companies, tech firms, pharmaceutical giants, logistics networks. Japan has its fingerprints on supply chains most people never see. They don't need to control everything. They just need to profit from it. And let's not forget manufacturing that moved offshore. Yes, Japan still makes things. But increasingly, those things are made in Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Mexico. Japanese companies shifted production decades ago to lower-cost countries. They still own the brands. They still design the products. They still take the profits. But the factories? Those are somewhere else, cheaper, more flexible, less exposed to Japan's aging workforce and high costs. It's globalization done right. Japan exports capital and expertise, imports profits. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Japan's wealth isn't just corporate, it's governmental. The Japanese government itself is one of the largest holders of foreign currency reserves in the world. Over $1 trillion sitting in the Bank of Japan's vaults. Most of it in US dollars and euros. Why? Because Japan runs a trade surplus. It sells more to the world than it buys. That surplus has to go somewhere. So it gets converted into foreign assets. Bonds mostly, safe, boring, but incredibly powerful. Because holding that much foreign debt gives Japan leverage, quiet leverage. The kind that doesn't need to be spoken about but is always understood. This is the part where people start to realize Japan isn't weak. It's patient. It's not struggling, it's repositioning. The narrative of decline, that's surface level. Underneath, Japan is one of the wealthiest nations on earth. And it's not wealth built on hype or speculation. It's built on ownership. On decades of saving, investing, and compounding. On a strategy that doesn't need rapid growth to work. It just needs time. And Japan has plenty of that. Now think about this for a second. While other countries are drowning in debt, Japan is a net lender. While others scramble for foreign investment, Japan is the one investing. While others worry about currency crises, Japan holds the currencies. It's a position of incredible strength. And yet, the world still talks about Japan like it's stuck in the past. Like it's a cautionary tale. That's not ignorance. That's camouflage. If this is blowing your mind, make sure you're subscribed. We're just getting started. Share this with someone who thinks they understand global economics. Let's keep going. Let's talk about something most people overlook. Japan's technological edge didn't disappear. It evolved. Yes, South Korea and China grabbed headlines with flashy consumer electronics. Yes, American tech companies dominate software and platforms. But Japan owns the invisible infrastructure. The machinery that makes the machines. The components you never see. The materials that make everything else possible. Semiconductor manufacturing equipment? A lot of that comes from Japan. Advanced robotics, Japan leads. Precision tools, specialty chemicals, high-grade steel, carbon fiber, optical components. These aren't things consumers buy. But every factory on Earth needs them. And Japan controls significant chunks of these markets. That's power. Quiet, boring, indispensable power. Here's another layer. Japan's dominance in automation and robotics isn't just about building cool robots. It's about solving the aging population problem without mass immigration. Japan is automating elder care, logistics, agriculture, and manufacturing at a scale no other country has attempted. It's not doing this loudly. There are no grand announcements. Just steady progress. Machines doing work that humans used to do. And those machines? Designed, built, and exported by Japanese companies. So even Japan's domestic challenges become export opportunities. The technology developed to care for Japan's elderly will eventually be sold to every other aging society, Europe, North America, East Asia. Japan is building the future while everyone thinks it's stuck in the past. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Japan's government debt. You've probably heard it's the highest in the world relative to GDP. Over 200%. Sounds terrifying, right? Like Japan is about to collapse under the weight of its own borrowing. Except it's not. Because almost all of that debt is owed to Japanese citizens and institutions. The government borrows from its own people in its own currency. No foreign creditors to panic. No currency risk. No default threat. It's debt, yes. But it's internally held debt in a country with massive savings and near zero interest rates. Japan can roll over this debt indefinitely. As long as its people keep saving and buying government bonds, the system holds, and they do. Because Japanese savers trust their government more than they trust risk assets. It's a closed loop, self-sustaining, weird by Western standards. Perfectly functional by Japanese logic. This is where Western economists get confused. They apply their models and see disaster, but Japan keeps humming along. Low inflation, low unemployment, social stability, high life expectancy, clean cities, functioning infrastructure. It doesn't fit the narrative of a country in crisis, because it's not in crisis. It's in transition. From a growth economy to a stability economy, from expansion to consolidation, from making things to owning things. And that transition is working, but let's be real. Japan's model isn't perfect. The aging population is a real challenge. Fewer workers mean lower domestic consumption. Less innovation pressure, slower dynamism. The reluctance to accept immigration means the labor force shrinks every year. Productivity gains from automation help, but they don't solve everything. Politically, Japan is stable but stagnant. The same party has ruled for most of the post-war era. Change happens slowly, too slowly for some. And culturally, there's resistance to risk-taking. Entrepreneurship isn't celebrated the way it is in the US. Failure is stigmatized. That limits innovation in certain sectors. So yes, Japan has weaknesses. But those weaknesses don't erase the strengths. And the strengths are enormous. Let me give you a concrete example of how this plays out. Japanese life insurance companies and pension funds are some of the largest institutional investors in the world. They manage trillions in assets. And because Japan's interest rates have been near zero for decades, they can't earn decent returns at home. So where do they go? Overseas. They buy foreign bonds, foreign stocks, foreign real estate. They finance infrastructure projects in emerging markets. They lend to corporations across the globe, and all of that generates yield. Returns that flow back to Japan, back to pensioners, back to policyholders. It's a giant recycling machine. Japanese savings go out into the world. The world pays interest and dividends. That income supports Japan's aging society. It's elegant. It's quiet, and it works. Here's something else. Japan's currency, the yen, is a safe haven. When global markets panic, money flows into yen, not because Japan's economy is booming, but because it's stable, predictable, trustworthy. In a world of uncertainty, Japan represents certainty. That gives it financial power that goes beyond GDP growth. It means Japan can borrow cheaply. It means Japanese investors can take advantage of global volatility. It means the yen itself is a tool of influence, not through aggression, through reliability. Before we wrap this up, let me ask you something. If you found this valuable, leave a comment. Tell me what surprised you most. And share this video with someone who still thinks Japan is just about anime and sushi. Let's spread the real story. Now, here's the final piece of the puzzle. Japan's wealth isn't just financial. It's cultural. It's soft power. Japanese culture has penetrated every corner of the globe. Anime, manga, video games, fashion, cuisine, minimalism, Zen philosophy, Kaizen business practices. These exports don't show up in trade statistics the way cars do. But they generate billions. They create brand loyalty. They shape how the world sees Japan. And that cultural capital translates into economic opportunity. A kid in Brazil who grows up watching Naruto is more likely to buy a Japanese product as an adult. A designer influenced by Japanese aesthetics spreads that influence further. Culture is capital, and Japan has spent decades investing in it. And here's the thing about soft power. It doesn't decay. A factory can become obsolete. A technology can be replaced. But culture embeds itself. It influences without force. It persuades without argument. Japan doesn't need military might to project power. It has something better. It has influence that people voluntarily adopt. That's the ultimate form of wealth. The kind that doesn't need to be defended because it's already inside people's minds. So when you ask how Japan actually makes its money, the answer isn't simple. It's not just one thing, it's a web. Foreign assets generating returns, corporations owning supply chains, technology licensing, cultural exports, trade surpluses converted into reserves. Automation solving demographic problems while creating export products. Pension funds investing globally. A stable currency attracting safe haven flows. It's all of it. Working together, quietly, efficiently. Without fanfare, Japan doesn't need to grow fast. It needs to compound steadily, and that's exactly what it's doing. While other nations chase headlines, Japan chases returns. While others borrow from the world, Japan lends to it. While others worry about the next crisis, Japan positions itself to profit from it. That's not luck, that's strategy. Decades in the making. And it's working. The lesson here isn't just about Japan. It's about how wealth actually works. Real wealth isn't flashy. It doesn't announce itself. It accumulates slowly. It diversifies. It stays patient. It survives downturns because it's built on fundamentals, not hype. Japan understood this before most of the world did. And now it's reaping the benefits, quietly, invisibly, but undeniably. If you made it this far, you're part of a small group that actually cares about understanding how the world really works. That's rare, so do yourself a favor. Subscribe to the Wealth Chronicles. Hit that notification bell. Because we're just getting started uncovering the secrets behind the world's most powerful economies. Share this video. Comment below with your thoughts. And remember, the real money is always where you're not looking. Until next time, follow the wealth, follow the power. And never stop questioning what you think you know.